Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most intense survival dramas ever filmed. A movie that doesn't just show the beauty of nature, but also its terrifying, merciless side. This is the true story-inspired disaster film Everest 2015. This isn't a simple adventure movie. It's a story about human ambition, courage, sacrifice, and tragedy. And before the actual movie events begin, let's take a moment to understand the background, because this film is based on real events that took place in May 1996, when Mount Everest became the stage for one of the deadliest disasters in climbing history. The Mountain of Dreams and Death. Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth, standing 29,029 feet above sea level. To put that into perspective, commercial airplanes fly at similar altitudes, except passengers are sitting in pressurized cabins with oxygen. On Everest, climbers are exposed directly to the elements, icy winds, sub-zero temperatures, and the thinnest oxygen you can imagine. At such heights, the body begins shutting down. Above 8,000 meters lies what climbers call the death zone. Up there, your brain and muscles are slowly dying. Every step feels like torture. Every breath burns your lungs. And even the strongest climbers can collapse suddenly. Everest is not just dangerous, it's unpredictable. Avalanches, crevasses, altitude sickness, and sudden storms can kill in minutes. Yet, despite all these dangers, Everest remains the ultimate dream for climbers around the world. By the mid-1990s, climbing Everest had become commercialized. Companies offered guided expeditions, where people who weren't professional mountaineers but had enough money could hire experts to lead them to the top of the world. One of the most respected guides was Rob Hall, founder of Adventure Consultants. Rob had a reputation for being careful, methodical, and deeply caring toward his clients. In 1996, he assembled a diverse group of climbers who all shared the same dream: to stand on top of the world. The movie opens with a haunting line: human beings simply aren't built to function at the cruising altitude of a 747. This instantly reminds us Everest is not a place for humans. It's a place where survival is measured in hours. We are then introduced to Rob Hall, played by Jason Clarke. Rob is calm, experienced, and responsible. His mission isn't just to climb, it's to bring his clients up safely and, more importantly, bring them back down alive. His 1996 team includes Bick Weather's Josh Brolin, a wealthy Texan with a big personality but troubled personal struggles. Doug Hansen John Hawkes, a humble mailman who had attempted Everest before and failed, but returned to fulfill his dream. He wants to prove that even ordinary people can achieve extraordinary goals. Yasuko Namba Naoko Mori, a quiet Japanese climber who has already scaled 6 of the 7 summits. Everest is her final challenge, along with Sherpa guides and other climbers who bring their own unique stories and motivations. We also meet Scott Fisher Jake Gyllenhaal, leader of the rival company Mountain Madness. Scott is more carefree, charismatic, and adventurous, contrasting with Rob's disciplined approach. But despite differences, both are professionals with the same goal: to get their clients to the summit. Journey to Nepal. The climbers begin their journey in Kathmandu, Nepal's vibrant capital. From there, they take a hair-raising flight into the mountains, landing at one of the most dangerous airports in the world. Next comes the trek through the Khumbu Valley. The team hikes past Sherpa villages, prayer wheels, and suspension bridges decorated with colorful flags. Every step takes them closer to Everest Base Camp, and already the altitude makes breathing harder. This part of the journey shows both the beauty of the Himalayas and the immense challenge that lies ahead. Base Camp. Finally, they arrive at Base Camp, a temporary village on the glacier at 17,600 feet. Hundreds of tents scatter across the ice, filled with climbers from different teams, all aiming for the same dream. Here, Rob Hall gathers his team and lays down the most important rule: If you're not at the summit by 2 p.m., you turn around. No exceptions. This turnaround time is crucial because descending in darkness or storms is a death sentence. Everyone agrees, but ambition and emotion often make people ignore the rules when the summit is in sight. Acclimatization. Climbers can't just rush up Everest. They must acclimatize, slowly train their bodies to survive at higher altitudes. So they spend weeks climbing up to higher camps and returning back to base camp. Their first major challenge is the Khumbu Icefall. Imagine a frozen river filled with giant towers of ice and deep cracks hidden under snow. The only way across is by ladders laid flat over bottomless crevasses. One wrong step and you disappear into the dark void. The team pushes forward, nerves shaking but determination strong. The Sherpas, as always, go first, fixing ropes, carrying loads, and guiding the climbers. Their courage and skill are unmatched. At higher camps, the conditions get harsher. Nights are freezing, winds slam against tents, and oxygen becomes scarce. Still, the climbers endure. That cracks jokes. Doug shares his motivation about inspiring kids at school. And Yasuko remains laser-focused. These moments remind us they're not superheroes. They're ordinary people with extraordinary dreams, foreshadowing trouble. As days pass, tension builds. Too many teams are crowding Everest this season, and they all want to summit around the same time. This means traffic jams high on the mountain, where one slow climber can delay dozens of others. Weather reports also hint at instability. Sherpas whisper that the mountain feels angry, but the clients are eager, and the narrow window of good weather won't last. Camp 2 and the Lot's face. Moving higher, the climbers reach Camp 2 at 21,000 feet, known as Advanced Base Camp. From here, they tackle the Lot's face, a steep wall of solid ice. Climbers inch their way upward, clipped into ropes, gasping for air with every step. At Camp 3, tents are pitched on narrow ledges carved into the ice wall. The sound of avalanche echoes around them at night. Sleep is impossible, but there's no turning back. By the time they reach Camp 4, the South call it nearly 26,000 feet. They are officially in the death zone here. Every breath without oxygen feels like suffocation. Here, frostbite can set in within minutes. Rob reminds his team once again, 2 p.m. turnaround, no matter what. Everyone nods, but deep inside, each climber knows how badly they want the summit. The night before the summit. On May 9th, the night before their summit attempt, the climbers prepare. Oxygen bottles are checked, crampons tightened, headlamps adjusted. But unease lingers. Beck admits to Rob that his eyesight is blurry. Doug looks weak from exhaustion. And Scott Fisher, the rival guide, seems sick, coughing, moving slowly. Not his usual energetic self. Still, at midnight, they step out of their tents into the freezing dark. A trail of headlamps lights up the ridge as dozens of climbers from multiple teams begin their final push to the top of the world. The final ascent has begun, and with it, the line between life and death grows razor thin. It's the night of May 9, 1996. The climbers leave Camp 4 in the death zone, beginning their summit attempt under a moonlit sky. Headlamps flicker against the icy darkness. Oxygen masks hiss with each desperate breath. The temperature sinks below minus 30 degrees Celsius, and every gust of wind feels like shards of glass slicing through exposed skin. This is it, the final climb to the top of the world. The long climb to the summit. The path is steep, narrow, and terrifying. At such altitude, every step is a battle. Climbers move in single file, clipped to fixed ropes hammered into the ice. But here lies the first problem. Not all the ropes have been properly secured yet. Rob Hall and Scott Fisher had trusted that Sherpas would fix the lines earlier. But due to miscommunication, the ropes are incomplete. Now precious hours are wasted as guides scramble to secure the route. Dozens of climbers stand still in the freezing wind, waiting. Oxygen tanks stick down, energy drains, and the risk grows. Already, they're behind schedule. Hillary Step. As dawn breaks, the climbers reach the Hillary Step, a near vertical rock wall just below the summit. At 28,750 feet, this obstacle is deadly. Only one climber at a time can ascend, creating a traffic jam. The sun rises, revealing breathtaking views of endless peaks above the clouds. For a brief moment, the dream feels within reach, but the clock is against them. It should have taken just minutes to pass the Hillary Step, but with so many climbers queued up, it takes hours. Oxygen bottles run dangerously low. The summit. Finally, one by one, climbers step onto the summit of Mount Everest, 29,029 feet above sea level. For those few minutes, the pain, exhaustion, and fear vanish. Tears freeze on cheeks. Flags are raised. Photos snapped. Dreams have become reality. Yasuko Namba quietly celebrates her 7 summits achievement. Beck Weathers forces a smile, though his vision is fading badly. Doug Hansen, the humble mailman, finally achieves the dream he's chased for years. But even as they celebrate, Rob Hall checks his watch. It's well past 2 p.m., the absolute turnaround time. He urges everyone to begin the descent immediately, because on Everest, reaching the top is only half the battle. The real danger lies in getting down alive. The deadly descent. Doug Hansen struggles to descend. He's exhausted, running out of oxygen. Rob stays with him, refusing to abandon his client. Doug collapses multiple times, gasping for breath, unable to move. Meanwhile, Beck Weathers is in deep trouble. His eyesight has worsened. He's nearly blind in the death zone. Rob instructs him to wait on the ridge until he returns, promising to help him later. Beck stands alone, battered by the wind, slowly freezing. Elsewhere, Scott Fisher, the leader of Mountain Madness, is in critical condition. The strong, carefree climber is now weak, dehydrated, and suffering from altitude sickness. His guides try to support him, but Scott can barely take a step without collapsing. The climbers are scattered across the ridge, delayed, exhausted, and dangerously late. The storm arrives. Then, as if the mountain itself decided to strike, a massive storm slams into Everest. What was once a bright day suddenly turns into chaos. Clouds swallow the summit, winds roar at hurricane force, and snow blinds the climbers. Visibility drops to almost nothing. Temperatures plummet to minus 40 degrees Celsius. The thin line between life and death snaps. Climbers can't see the trail. Some wander off course. Others collapse in the snow. Radios crackle with desperate calls for help. But no one is close enough to save anyone else. The mountain is now a white hill. Rob and Doug's fate. High on the ridge, Doug Hansen collapses for the last time. Rob tries to lift him, drag him, anything, but Doug is gone. His dream cost him his life. Rob radios base camp, his voice heavy with despair. He has lost a client. Worse, he is now trapped above 28,000 feet himself. Running out of oxygen? Back at base camp, team members beg him to descend. But Rob refuses to leave Doug's body behind. His loyalty, though noble, seals his own fate. Beck Weathers left behind. Meanwhile, Beck Weathers, nearly blind and freezing, waits as promised. But hours pass. Rob never comes back for him. The storm intensifies. Beck collapses into the snow, unconscious, his body slowly freezing solid. For most, that would be the end. But Beck's story isn't finished yet. Scott Fisher's collapse. Elsewhere, Scott Fisher can no longer continue. His body has reached its limit. He collapses on the ridge, mumbling incoherently. His Sherpa guides try to help, but are themselves at risk. Eventually, they are forced to leave him behind. Scott, the bold leader of Mountain Madness, dies alone in the storm. Yasuko and the others. Yasuko, Namba, and several other climbers become stranded together near the South Col. They huddle in the snow. But the cold is merciless. One by one, they lose consciousness. Yasuko, who had just completed her 7 summits dream, quietly slips away. The dreamers who touched the top of the world are now frozen on its slopes. Rob's last call. Through the night, Rob Hall remains trapped high on the ridge. His oxygen gone, his body frozen. He somehow manages to radio base camp one final time. They patch him through to his wife, Jen Arnold, who is pregnant back home in New Zealand. Through static and wind, Rob's faint voice carries across continents. He tells her he loves her. He tells her to take care of their unborn child. His last words are heartbreaking. "Sleep well, my sweetheart. Please don't worry too much." After that, the radio goes silent. A glimmer of survival. By morning, the storm eases slightly. Survivors stagger back toward camp for frostbitten, exhausted, traumatized. Some can't even walk and have to be dragged by others. But then, something miraculous happens. Beck Weathers, who everyone assumed was dead, wakes up. Half frozen, face blackened with frostbite. Hands destroyed, he somehow finds the strength to stand. Barely able to see, he stumbles back toward camp through the snow. His survival defies belief, but the cost is enormous. He will lose his nose, hands, and much of his face to frostbite. Yet, against all odds, Beck becomes one of the few who return alive. Aftermath on the mountain. When the storm finally clears, the full scale of the disaster is revealed. Rob Hall, Doug Hansen, Yasuko Namba, Scott Fisher, and several others, all gone. The mountain claimed them. Dreams turn to tragedy. Families back home are shattered. Survivors live with scars, both physical and emotional, that never heal. And the world looks on in shock. The 1996 Everest disaster becomes one of the deadliest events in the mountain's history, sparking debates about the commercialization of climbing, the dangers of ambition, and the fragile line between victory and survival. The emotional ending. The film closes not with triumph, but with grief and reflection. Jen Arnold, Rob's wife, mourns his loss. Beck returns home, scarred but alive, a living reminder of the mountain's wrath. The screen reminds us Rob's body still lies on Everest, where he made his final stand. Doug, Yasuko, Scott, they too remain on the slopes, frozen monuments to human ambition. The message is clear. Everest is not conquered. Everest allows you to visit, and only if it lets you leave. Everest 2015 is more than a survival thriller. It's a human story about dreams, love, sacrifice, and the brutal cost of chasing the impossible. The storm has passed, but silence on Everest is never peace. It is the silence of death. When the sun rises on May 11, 1996, the mountain reveals the true cost of ambition. Bodies remain scattered along the route, frozen in positions that tell their final stories. Some collapse while crawling, some sitting as if resting, and others lying face first in the snow. For rescuers, there is no time, no strength, and often no way to bring them down. The mountain keeps them forever. Survivors return. The surviving climbers stumble back into camp for the South Call. Their faces are pale, lips cracked, hands blackened with frostbite. Some collapse immediately, needing help just to unzip their oxygen masks. Others sit in stunned silence, unable to process the nightmare they just endured. Guides, Sherpas, and teammates rush to help, but everyone is weak. In the death zone, there is little strength left for heroics. Survival itself is the only focus. One climber, speaking through cracked lips, whispers, "We left them up there." The guilt is heavy. Those who lived know they survived partly by luck, partly by the mountain's mercy. And those who died, their names will echo in history. Beck Withers, the miracle man. And then comes perhaps the most unbelievable twist of fate. Beck Withers, who had been left for dead not once, but twice, suddenly staggers back into camp. His face is frostbitten, his nose blackened, his hands stiff and frozen. Yet somehow, his spirit has dragged him out of the snow and guided him back. The other climbers are stunned. No one can believe it. Vex's survival is called a miracle, and even today, his story is one of the most extraordinary in mountaineering history. But his ordeal is far from over. Later rescues will airlift him from the mountain, and though he loses both hands, his nose, and parts of his face to frostbite, he returns home alive. His survival becomes a symbol of human willpower that even in the face of impossible odds, some people refuse to die. Base camp, the world watches. Back at base camp, radios have carried the news of disaster. Teams from other expeditions listen in shock as updates come through. Rob Hall missing, last heard on the radio. Doug Hansen, presumed dead. Scott Fisher, confirmed dead. Yasuko Namba, missing in the storm. Families around the world wait for news that will never come. In New Zealand, Jen Arnold, Rob's wife, who is 7 months pregnant, receives her husband's final words across the crackling static of a radio. "I love you. Sleep well, my sweetheart." It's one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film. And it's not fiction. These were Rob's actual last words, remembered by his wife forever. Losses on the mountain. By the time the survivors descend further, the full tragedy is clear. Rob Hall, the careful, respected leader, died on the mountain alongside his client. Doug Hansen, the mailman who wanted to inspire school children, never made it back. Yasuko Namba, the quiet Japanese woman who had just completed the 7 summits, lost her life only a few hours after achieving her dream. Scott Fisher, the charismatic guide, collapsed and never rose again. In total, 8 climbers from different teams perished in the 1996 Everest disaster. The weight of ambition. The film doesn't just show the deaths, it forces us to ask why. Why did they push beyond to PM? Why ignore the rules? Why risk lives for a summit? The answer lies in the heart of human ambition. For some, Everest is a symbol, a once-in-a-lifetime dream. For others, it's personal redemption. For guides like Rob and Scott, it's both business and passion. But Everest does not care. The mountain doesn't reward ambition. It doesn't recognize courage. It simply stands silent and deadly while humans test themselves against it. The wider impact. The 1996 Everest disaster shook the mountaineering community and made headlines worldwide. Books, documentaries, and debates followed. People asked, should Everest be commercialized? Should inexperienced climbers be allowed to attempt it? Should guides risk their own lives for clients? The disaster sparked soul-searching in the climbing world, but it didn't stop the flow of climbers to Everest. Even today, lines of people wait their turn at the Hillary step, risking their lives for the chance to stand on top of the world. Emotional closure in the film. The film closes with haunting emotional notes. Beck Weathers returns home, scarred but alive, reunited with his family. His survival story becomes legendary. Jen Arnold gives birth to Rob's daughter, who will grow up never meeting her father. The screen reminds us that Rob's body remains on Everest, alongside Doug, Yasuko, Scott, and countless others. These are not just characters in a movie. They were real people. Their stories remain frozen in time, just like their bodies on the mountain. Final narration style reflection. And so, Everest 2015 is not just a survival film. It is a memorial, a reminder that nature is greater than us all. The mountain gives and the mountain takes. For every person who reaches the summit, another may never come back. For every dream fulfilled, there may be a price to pay. The film captures this truth beautifully. The stunning cinematography shows the breathtaking views, but also the terrifying emptiness of the death zone. The characters remind us that behind every climber is a family, a dream, a reason to keep going, and sometimes a reason to let go. Closing lines for YouTube narration. And that's the story of Everest 2015, a powerful, heartbreaking film based on real events that remind us of the thin line between triumph and tragedy. It's not just about climbing a mountain. It's about human limits, loyalty, sacrifice, and the cruel beauty of nature. So, what do you think? Would you ever dare to climb Mount Everest, knowing the risks? Or is watching stories like this enough of a reminder that some dreams are better left unchased? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Everest, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss more movie explanations and breakdowns. Until next time, stay safe, stay inspired, and remember, on Everest, the summit is only halfway.